All right, let's jump right in. Have you ever looked around and just thought, why are so many relationships struggling these days? Well, the source material we're digging into today asks that exact question. And let me tell you, it offers up an answer that, well, it really challenges a lot of our usual ideas about partnership. So if you've ever felt like there's got to be a different way to make things work, you're definitely going to want to hear this.
So, the source we're looking at kicks things off with a pretty bold and maybe even a little bleak observation. For a lot of people, relationships just aren't cutting it anymore. I mean, sure, you can look at the stats, but it's more than that, right? It's that quiet feeling of dissatisfaction that so many people seem to have. The text basically says that real, deeply fulfilling love, that's becoming the exception, not the rule. So, what on earth is going on? Okay, so let's try and diagnose this thing. Our source calls it das Beziehungsproblem, which basically translates to the modern relationship problem. But, what does that actually feel like? What does it look like in our day-to-day lives?
Take a look at this list. Does any of it hit a little too close to home? See, what the source points out is that the problem isn't always some big dramatic fight. More often, it's a slow fade. It's that feeling when routine takes over where passion used to be, or when talking to each other starts to feel like a chore instead of a connection. It's that sense that the bond you both had, that incredible connection, is starting to, well, fray at the edges.
But here's the thing. According to the text, this isn't just random bad luck. It's not just two people falling out of love. No, the argument here is that all these issues, they're just symptoms. Symptoms of one single, deeper root cause. And that's what we're about to get into.
And that root cause, well, our source says it all comes down to a question of desire. And it gets even more specific than that. It really zooms in on the nature of male desire, arguing that that's the central piece of the puzzle we've been missing.
And there it is, right there. This is the core idea. The source claims that the secret to fixing what's broken isn't some fancy new therapy or relationship hack. It's actually a long-known secret that we've just forgotten. And that secret is all about understanding and channeling male desire in the right way.
Now, this is really interesting. Think about it. The source points out this huge gap in how we educate men about desire. They're taught all the don'ts, how to prevent pregnancy, how to avoid STDs. It's all about damage control, right? But what's totally missing, what they're not taught, is the do's, how to actually use that incredibly powerful energy for something positive, like channeling it into creativity or using it to build deeper intimacy or even for their own personal growth. So what happens when you don't give that energy any direction? Well, according to this text, the consequences can be pretty serious. That powerful drive, it doesn't just go away. It's left undirected, and it can end up with men becoming, as the source puts it, slaves to their own desires, just driven by impulse, instead of by a real conscious understanding of what intimacy is all about. And this right here really lays out the disconnect that the source is getting at. You can see two totally different perspectives. On one side, you have the typical male focus, which is often driven purely by desire, where sex can be the main event. And on the other side, you have the female focus, which is seeking closeness, love, and care, with sex being just one piece of that much bigger picture. It's almost like they're trying to have a conversation about intimacy, but are speaking two completely different languages. Okay, so we've seen the diagnosis from our source, a major disconnect in how desire and intimacy are approached. So naturally, the next big question is there a fix? Is there a solution to this? Well, the source doesn't just leave us with the problem. It proposes a very specific solution. It's a whole new way to structure a relationship, designed to bridge that very gap we were just talking about. It's called Die weiblich geführte Beziehung, or in English, the female-led relationship. So what is that exactly? Well, the definition itself is pretty straightforward. It's a relationship where the woman consciously and intentionally takes the lead. But, and this is important, it's not just about who decides what to have for dinner. It's a deliberate shift in the whole structure of the partnership, and it's designed to create a completely new dynamic around intimacy and desire. And the source is really, really clear on this next point. This is not about personality types. It's not about finding a dominant woman and a submissive man, not at all. It's about a conscious choice. It's a mutual agreement that both partners make together, deciding to build their relationship on this specific foundation. Okay, so I know what you might be thinking. A concept like female-led relationship probably brings a whole bunch of stereotypes and cliches to mind, right? Well, the source knows that too. And it makes a real point to go gen sites their cliches, or beyond the cliches, to get to what this is really about. And it's super clear about what a female-led relationship is not. It's not automatically some kind of fetish, it's not about extreme BDSM-style dynamics, and it's definitely not about a constant power struggle. Instead, the way it's presented here is as a relationship strategy, a different way of operating. Really, the goal of the author here seems to be to take this idea out of the shadows and into the light. The point is to present it as a totally valid, accessible option for any couple out there that feels like the so-called traditional way just isn't working for them. It's about getting rid of the shame and taboo that can get attached to these kinds of ideas. Okay, so if we push all the stereotypes aside, what's the actual point? How is this particular model supposed to create a better, more loving relationship? What's the mechanism here? So what does female leadership actually mean in practice? What does it do? Well, according to the source, her guidance is meant to be the catalyst, the thing that sparks a pretty profound transformation. And not just in the relationship, but within the man himself. And this quote really captures the intended result. The claim is that by following her lead, the man learns how to take that raw, undirected desire we were talking about before and consciously channel it. And that process, the text argues, is what changes everything. It's what helps him become more intimate, more passionate, and ultimately a more reliable and loving partner. But, and this is a big but, this kind of transformation doesn't just happen magically. The source is very clear that it all depends on two absolute non-negotiable foundations. First, you need sincere, radically honest communication. No games, no pretense. And second, both partners have to be completely on board, genuinely willing to commit to this structure and use it to bring out the best in themselves. So there you have it. That's the core idea from our source material. It takes the concept of a female-led relationship and reframes it, not as some fringe lifestyle, but as a potential solution to the very problems that seem to plague so many modern couples. Is it a radical idea? Oh, absolutely. But the source leaves us with a really powerful question to chew on. In a world where the old rules just don't seem to be working for everyone, maybe it's time to start looking for a new key to happiness.